All right, everyone, we're going to start our afternoon session of this first partnership forum. Thank you so very much for being here again and for contributing or for your contributions this afternoon to what will be a very interactive session. You guys are going to see a number of boards and posters on the wall. As I said, it's going to be very interactive, but in order to set us up, I'm going to give us a little bit of the context as to why we're here and what we're going to be doing this afternoon. Let me dive right into it. So you guys would have heard about the Ocean Coordination Mechanism for the wider Caribbean, and a key principle within the OCM is this idea of a whole of society approach, right? This is the interactions amongst not just the IGOs and the governments, but also governments, civil society, private sector, and academia. And with this whole of society approach, we are attempting, or we would like to, tackle challenges affecting oceans and their dependent societies. Now, this is in pursuit of ocean protection conservation as the key platform or the key base for human well-being in our wider Caribbean region. So this ocean protection conservation is really for sustainable development opportunities and maximizing on those that are available to us. Now, in this schematic, you'll see the main organs in gray of the Ocean Coordination Mechanism. I'm from the Secretariat. My name is Alexander Gervan. I'm a Senior Technical Officer working there. And the OCM Secretariat reports primarily to two major bodies. The Executive Group, which is the major IGOs in the region working on ocean issues. This is the follow-on from the Interim Coordination Mechanism, which existed in the previous edition, the CLME Plus project, which has now evolved into the Ocean Coordination Mechanism. As I said, the IGOs are the executive group, and they report to the steering group of countries. And the idea here is that under the CLME Plus project with the Interim Coordination Mechanism, people were very happy with the results which were achieved, but we wanted the countries to be in even more of a driver's seat. Yesterday we had the first meeting of the working groups of the organs of the OCM, and these working groups are a key part of the OCM governance structure, but we recognize that we're not just governments and IGOs. There is a wider ranging stakeholder community that needs to be involved in the work of the OCM work program. So as I said, this would be global, regional, and national, and these are other, including other working groups, but of course NGOs and, as I said, private sector and civil society in the space. So in order to pull in this wider stakeholder community into the key activities of the OCM, we're here today. We're here to hear from you, and I'm going to get the questions afterwards, but let me get into the key aspects of the OCM work program that we're asking you to contribute to. So you're going to see in yellow here some of the key outputs of the OCM work program. First, the SOMI, or Regional State of Marine Environment and Associated Socioeconomics report. Of course, the Strategic Action Program, which we spoke about a lot this morning, and the MDI Marine Data Infrastructure. So these are the three key outputs of the OCM work program that we're going to be discussing this afternoon. The SOMI report is closely linked to the TDA approach. And in JEF International Waters Projects, it's a TDA SAP approach, Transboundary Diagnostic Analysis. The idea here is that we have shared marine spaces, which means we have shared problems and shared opportunities. And in order to capitalize on those opportunities but address those problems, we need a SAP, a strategic action program, but first a diagnostic of the transboundary problems that we face. Now, the SOMI is closely linked to the TDA process because this is almost like a blue economy report. Not to simplify, but it is a blue economy report. It's the state of our marine environment, but also where things could be if we made appropriate investments in marine environmental protection. So from that state and where things could be, we move into the SAP, so the Strategic Action Program, which is, as I said, the countries, but also the IGOs, what actions can we collectively take to address these problems and capitalize on opportunities. This, of course, needs to be built on sound data. At that science policy interface, you need good information to make sound decisions. We've realized that there's a lot of problems in the region as it relates to ocean governance, but specifically as well marine data, and that's fragmentation of data, but also major gaps in data that we need to have. Yvette gave me a great example about the fact that when you're collecting fisheries data, the way they collect landing data in WCAF-C, in other arms of the FAO, in ICAT, it's a completely different format. So for a small island, collecting that data in different formats is actually quite challenging, and it affects their ability to reasonably collect that information. So with the MDI, this is the foundation of the SAP and the SOMI, and the idea here is that we need to analyze what exists, centralize what data exists, but also fill the gaps based on this analysis. So in order to achieve these things, we need to involve you, the wider stakeholder community, the broad weighting partnership. And today, my colleagues are going to explain the dynamic of this exercise, but we're going to answer 3 primary questions. The first question is, and I'm going to read them only in English, sorry. Who could we involve in the implementation of the OCM work program, specifically the SAP, the SOMI, and the MDI? So what stakeholders don't exist within the OCM governance framework that should be involved in its work? And the dynamic is going to be explained, but we need that information from you. Our second question is, what are you already doing or will do that can contribute to the implementation of the OCM work program? The key principle within the OCM MOU is reducing duplication through collaboration and coordination. So we want to know what you're already doing that can contribute to that work program to make sure that we use that additional wind in our sails, but also to make sure that we're not duplicating our efforts and wasting the limited resources that we have in the region. The final question is, how can the OCM work program support your work on ocean environment policy? All of us here want the same thing: a healthier marine environment for better lives for people. So the question here is, what is the work that you're doing that can support our work to influence environmental policy to make our marine environment healthier for our region's peoples? So with those 3 questions and with that context, I think I'm going to pass it now to my colleague to explain the dynamic of this afternoon's exercise. Thank you so very much for your contributions. They're invaluable to the work that we're doing in making sure that the wide-ranging partnership is involved in the OCM work program. Thank you so much.